Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining this stream. Today is 24th of September. Now it's 10 o'clock, and as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments that Russian media and public is paying attention to throughout their day. And hopefully, you will find news segment informative and useful. And if so, please like the video and leave some commentary. This might help to deal with the algorithm and reach wider audience. Also, dear friends, as you know, after the stream, I will join community chat for a little while. And if you want to support my work, you can use a super chat feature and not just donate to the project, but also highlight certain question or the topic that you want. My channel on Rumble is monetized. I'm streaming on both my channels on YouTube and Rumble, and you can use that super chat or round feature there on the Rumble. And in case you want to donate through other means, under this video in description box you will find the links to other support channels. Also, dear friends, let me make an announcement that as I did this today with the first update, from now on I will publish first news update on my Patreon and Boosty pages first, so that members of our communities there that are supporting financially this project will have early access. And after a couple of hours, I will publish that first update on YouTube and Rumble. Also, hopefully, this step will encourage more members of our community, our bigger community on YouTube and Rumble, to join join us on Patreon and Boosty. That will be great support too, of course. And that's it for intro, I guess. Let me start the new segment itself now. And as I already commented on Rumble in the chat, I will try to make a new segment about hour, and then I will join community chat. Let's see if it will work out. And so let's start the new segment, dear friends. And first report that I want to share with you is that during the day, from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. today, air defense systems on duty, according to TASS news agency, intercepted 25 drones that was launched by Kyiv regime with assistance of NATO to strike deep into Russian territory. Unfortunately, there was a quite large-scale assault on Russian Black Sea coastal city of Novorossiysk, and also in direction of Tuapse with aerial drones and maritime drones today. And we have this report from RIA Novosti that number of casualties in the Ukrainian armed forces attack after Ukrainian attack, basically, on Novorossiysk and Tuapse has risen to 16. If you are watching from the Western countries, dear friends, most likely you have not heard anything about this yet another terrorist attack that was conducted by Kyiv regime with assistance of NATO against Russian civilians. Let me give you some details on that. The number of casualties in the Ukrainian drone attacks on Novorossiysk and Tuapse has risen to 16. Krasnodar Krai Vice Governor Anna Minkova reported that according to operational data, 16 people were injured in Novorossiysk. 2 victims died at the scene. 9 people were hospitalized in Novorossiysk hospital, 2 of whom are in a serious condition and are being transported to regional clinical hospital number 1. There, 3 more received outpatient care. In Tuapse, 2 people were hospitalized in a moderate condition at their district hospital. One of them is a minor, she wrote on Telegram. And on your screen, dear friends, you can see right now some consequences of these attacks. Clearly, you can see a residential building, isn't it? That was targeted by Kyiv regime, and their building caught fire as a result of that. Also, Ukrainian armed forces launched a strike near the Novorossiysk hotel, the hotel building, and 7 houses were damaged, and the roofs of some houses caught fire that you can clearly see on your screen right now. Temporary accommodation center has been set up at the technical and economic Lyceum. Drone debris fell on a parked cars also and caused a fire, damaging 20 vehicles, 3 of which were completely burned. You can see that also on your screen right now. The Caspian Pipeline Consortium office building was also damaged, injuring two workers. And let me remind you, dear friends, that Caspian Pipeline Consortium is an international corporation that mainly transports through its pipeline network Kazakhstani oil and on the world market. And this consortium, significant role in this consortium are playing U.S. Energy companies. So I will assume that London targeted U.S. interests once again. Every time we are seeing attacks on Caspian Pipeline Consortium, it's London's attack on Washington. Basically, they are competing with each other, obviously, including in energy sector, and that's my interpretation of these attacks. That London is going all in with the terrorist attacks on not just Russian civilians but also on economical interests of the U.S. I don't know if Washington understands what's going on, taking into account what kind of people are in at least formally in charge there in U.S. Regional Governor Veniamin Kondratov urged city residents to remain calm, observe safety precautions, and stay home if possible. He instructed Mayor Andrei Kravchenko to provide assistance to their victims. And dear friends, let me give you also this news. Maria Zakharova commented on this attack of Kiev regime and London on Novorossiysk and also on Caspian Pipeline Consortium. Let me give you her statement. So Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova called the strike on Caspian Pipeline Consortium office a signal to the European Union and urged not to be surprised when the Kiev regime begins honing its terrorist skills against its airfields, European airfields, oil storage facilities, and gas pipelines. And she has a point, by the way. Europe will find out what Ukraine terrorism is, and in relatively shorter time. If globalists and globalist control regimes in Europe are thinking that, in the continental part at least, are thinking that they are safe, well, Maria Zakharova has something to tell them. We have a quote here: the Kiev regime is targeting civilian infrastructure, energy facilities, and airports. This is a signal to the EU. Don't be surprised if Bankova, on Bankova there is official governmental buildings in Kiev, hones its terrorist skills even more, targeting their European airfields, oil storage facilities, and gas pipelines. I don't think Brussels will listen to warnings from Maria Zakharova, but they should. They should. Anyways, let's continue. And dear friends, surprisingly, instead of making strong statements against terrorist attacks on Kazakhstani national interests, Kazakhstani energy security interests, President of Kazakhstan, Tokayev, responded on an early call of Zelensky that he is ready to meet with Russian president in Kazakhstan, for example, and he said that Kazakhstan is ready to provide a platform for negotiations on Ukrainian matter. I don't know what the hell is wrong with Tokayev, by the way. Any other president after Ukrainian and British terrorist attack on Caspian Pipeline Consortium would probably will make a stronger statement with the condemnation of this terrorist attack, but current Kazakhstani president is in different universe, I guess, and talks some crazy stuff there. Unbelievable, really unbelievable, man. TASS news agency is also reporting that Russian armed forces destroyed and their friends on Novorossiysk, as I already mentioned, on Novorossiysk and Tuapse, there was aerial drone attacks and maritime drone attacks simultaneously. And reports are that Russian troops are destroying most of the drones, aerial drones, and most of the maritime drones. At least 5 maritime drones were destroyed. I can give you some videos on that, dear friends, for better understanding. For example, consequences of drone attack. You can see there is windows shattered, cars are burning as a result of this terrorist attack on Novorossiysk. And also, when it comes to maritime drones, I can give you one of the videos of destruction of the maritime drone. I mean, exact moment when drone was destroyed. And reports are that at least 5 of them were neutralized in Novorossiysk direction. Although this is not all. Unfortunately, there was more maritime drones launched by British militaries and British proxy or globalist proxy Kiev regime to attack Russia. And we have this report, for example, that Russian armed forces destroyed an unmanned Ukrainian boat near the Crimean coast. This happened this evening, by the way. And in addition to that, this afternoon, there was a threat of attack by unmanned boats that was declared in Sochi too. The threat of attack by unmanned boats has been declared in Sochi. Authorities are asking residents and the visitors to leave beaches and embankments, said the resort mayor Andrei Proshunin. Sochi is, of course, a resort city on the Russian Black Coast, dear friends. Of course, you all are familiar. Let me show you where Novorossiysk is located and where Sochi. So, of course, you are familiar with this map: Black Sea, Crimea, and Azov Sea here. Novorossiysk is located on the eastern side of Crimea on the Black Sea coast. This is Novorossiysk, and Sochi is located southeastern side from Novorossiysk. This is a location of the Sochi, by the way. There was an alarm that maritime drones could attack Sochi, but I guess Russian militaries neutralized incoming maritime drones before they reach the city vicinity. So Russian media did not report about any incidents in the city, on the city coastline. Let me continue with some other news, dear friends. Russian armed forces liberated Pereznaya settlement, as I reported earlier. Defense Ministry of the Russian Federation confirmed this information, and let me show you where that settlement is located. So Pereznaya is where is the Pereznaya, by the way? I'm gonna become a freaking expert in the geography, by the way, with this constant reports on developments on the line of contact. That's the Pereznaya, I guess. Yes, it is. So this is Pereznaya, dear friends, on the southern flank of Seversk. I believe also reports are that Russian troops are advancing in direction of Zvanovka settlement. Early today, number of Telegram channels in the Russian segment of the platform reported that forward units of the Russian armed forces already are conducting clearing operation in the southern parts of Zvanovka. If true, this is of course also significant progress of the Russian armed forces in direction of Seversk, garnison of which is already in quite a difficult situation because main supply and support line of Kiev regime's garnison in Seversk is cut with direct Russian fire control. After Russian troops cleared the Serebryanka forestry, of course, the situation for Kiev regime's forces in Seversk surrounding settlements, also in direction of Yampol and Liman, did become much more difficult than it was before that. Also, reports are coming in about advances of the Russian armed forces on the northern side of Liman in Dirilovo settlement. Probably in upcoming day or two, Russian Defense Ministry will make announcement about liberation of this village. In addition to that, there are reports about further progress of the Russian armed forces in Kupyansk direction, and according to reports that I see, more than 60% of buildings more than 60% of buildings in Kupyansk are under Russian control now. It's a street fighting, by the way, high-intensity street fighting that is going on in this city, and I guess it's a matter of a week or two, max, maybe less than that, and Kupyansk will be completely liberated by Russian forces. Let me continue, dear friends, with some more reports. And for example, well, exactly about Kupyansk, the French Tass News Agency reported that Russian armed forces established control over another 115 buildings in the city. I can give you some details on that. Russian troops have captured another 150 buildings in the city of Kupyansk in the Kharkov region, the Russian Defense Ministry reported. You can imagine how tense the fight is inside the city. That Defense Ministry is reporting about progress of the Russian armed forces street by street level. So it is a hell on earth, I guess, in Kupyansk right now. Earlier, Defense Ministry reported that 65% of buildings in Kupyansk has been liberated by Russian forces. About 5,600 buildings, by the way. So it's a relatively large town there. So yes, significant progress when it comes to street by street, building by building fight. Of course, it's extremely harsh, extremely difficult with high losses. It all comes down to professionalism, of course. The troops and Russian forces are moving forward, and I guess it's as I said, matter of week or two, and Kupyansk will be fully liberated. RT is also reporting that ex-Ukrainian army chief laments cost of Kursk incursion. You know, dear friends, yesterday U.S. President Donald Trump called on NATO, EU, and the Kyiv regime to act. He basically green-lighted their next phase of escalation by NATO against Russia and NATO proxy Kyiv regime, and their speculations began straight away on internet. Probably you have heard or read about it, that Kyiv regime might launch with the assistance of NATO yet another sectoral scale offensive, or maybe even try to enter Russian territory in Bryansk, Kursk, Belgorod direction, or somewhere else. And it is interesting that exactly at this point, former head of Kyiv regime's general staff, Zaluzhny, is making statements about how costly Kursk incursion was for Kyiv regime's armed forces. Let me give you some details. The Ukrainian incursion into Russia's Kursk region, ordered by Vladimir Zelensky, came with a too high cost and did not deliver any operational results. Former top Ukrainian general and the current Ukrainian ambassador to UK, Valery Zaluzhny, claimed in an article published on Tuesday. The August 2024 operation involved an initial force of some 35,000 troops who invaded the Russia's Kursk region, taking dozens of villages and killing local residents in a move Zelensky claimed would provide the leverage for future peace talks. In April, President Vladimir Putin declared the Kursk region fully liberated, and the chief of Russia's general staff, Valery Gerasimov, reported that Ukraine had lost more than 76,000 troops killed and wounded in the operation, along with over 7,700 pieces of military hardware, military equipment. Reflecting on a Kursk incursion in the Ukrainian outlet Zerkalo Nedeli, Zaluzhny, widely touted as a rival to Vladimir Zelensky in any future presidential elections, claimed that such operations could only be justified if human losses were acceptable and objectives limited. An isolated tactical breakthrough on a narrow sector of the front does not bring their necessary success to their attacking side, he wrote, noting that Russia not only stopped Kyiv's attacks and also managed to launch its own tactical advance. Zelensky reportedly ignored the advice of his own staff, including his top general Zaluzhny and the commander of the Ukraine's 80th Air Assault Brigade, who, like his commander, was dismissed from his post amid reported protests from high-ranking military officers. The cost of such actions is unknown to me, but it was clearly too high, Zaluzhny wrote. interesting. Zaluzhny is not just acknowledging that Kursk incursion was a total disaster for Kiev regime, but he is clearly attacking Zelensky, and they're basically preparing ground for a future confrontation with Zelensky, and maybe for a future coup d'etat. Because if Zelensky will not cancel martial law and not appoint presidential elections, then I guess Washington, London, and some other Western capitals will authorize military coup d'etat to remove Zelensky from his office, and Zaluzhny might play significant role in that, because according to reports, he's the most popular person right now, and very popular among Kiev regime's militaries and their families. And that means something, I guess. Although, dear friends, let me notice here that Zaluzhny is a despicable scum of humanity. He is a neo-Nazi writer, and if he was a president of so-called Ukraine, I don't think Moscow would have any talks with this freaking animal, this mass murderer and animal. Everyone should know that Zaluzhny is not any better than Zelensky. These all are freaking Nazi animals, man, all of them. No exceptions. RT is also reporting that, well, as you know, dear friends, Trump yesterday was making headlines while visiting UN, and then making a speech there before UN, then having a meeting with all sorts of individuals, leaders from different parts of the world, different countries. And well, he stated that China and India were primary funders of Ukraine conflict. I mentioned this topic during today's first update, but in case you missed it, in case you have not had the time to watch the first update, well, let me just highlight some key points from his statement. So, US President Donald Trump accused India and China of funding the Ukraine conflict through Russian energy imports. In a speech at the UN General Assembly in New York, we have quote here: China and India are the primary funders of their ongoing war by continuing to purchase Russian oil, Trump claimed on Tuesday. And of course, Trump is lying, by the way. If any one country is a major sponsor of this proxy war that West is waging against Russia, is US. And Trump himself stated in numerous occasions that US, at least under Biden's administration, transferred or spent $350 billion to prolong this war. And another 100 plus billion euros were spent by European countries, right? And while this is happening, and while Trump himself acknowledged on numerous occasions that US spent already 350 plus billion, he is going to criticize China and India and call them sponsors of this war. This is insane. This is really insane. And it is unfortunate that in the Western so-called MSM, there is no more true journalists left to basically keep these so-called leaders of the West in check and to ask some real questions. I mean, why no one asked Trump how China and India are the sponsors of this war and not the US that spent 350 billion? How? What kind of logic is that? Anyways, by the way, Trump, as you know, dear friends, also stated that he will have a conversation with the Hungarian leadership and will demand from Budapest to cut ties with Russia and to stop purchasing energy resources from Russian Federation. And well, we have a response from Budapest. I state straight away that it is unlikely that Hungarian leadership will listen to Trump and will forget about national interests of the Hungarian people. And that's exactly what happened. I was correct. Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó stated that Budapest will not stop purchasing Russian oil, even if asked to do so by an ally, US President Trump. So Budapest's position very clear, and maybe it is really time some changes being made in Trump's administration so that he will be a little better briefed and prepared before he will make some statements, because I mean, he just looks like a freaking clown. As time goes by and more he talks, more clownish and inadequate he looks. And some people already are questioning his mental abilities. Just saying. Before I continue, dear friends, let me highlight, if I may, once again, that this media project is completely subscriber funded, and if you like my work, if you want to help me maintain this project, you can do it through several means. You can support through with donation through PayPal platform or Boosty platform, dear friends. You can subscribe to my Patreon page or on Boosty, where I have extra content on a regular basis. And as I mentioned in the beginning, from now on, first news update initially will be published on Patreon and Boosty, and after that, in several hours' time, on YouTube and Rumble. So if you are a member of Patreon, you will have also early access to first news update. And it's not just that, but as I said, I have some other, and I will have some other extra content too. I will make sure about it. Links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment, dear friends. And as I said many times before, this project to be in a safe place, our community on Patreon needs to double. So it's extremely important. I cannot even explain how important for survivability of this project is. More members of our bigger community from YouTube and Rumble to subscribe to my Patreon. Monthly support, dear friends, starts on Patreon, for example, from 5 USD, and then you can choose your level of support there, your level of monthly support, and also during the streams, you can use super chat or round feature on Rumble. For now, there was no super chats. Otherwise, Anya, my wife, would send me a screenshot. For now, there was no super chat, but anyways, you can use that super chat feature or round feature on Rumble to donate to the project or highlight any question you might have or commentary about any topic. And you can use premium subscription feature. You can become premium subscriber on Rumble. To everything counts, of course, to maintain this project. And many thanks, of course, to everybody who already supported and continues to support. Thank you very much. That's been said, dear friends. Let me continue with some more news. It's already 28 minutes, isn't it? So I will try to be fast. Let's try to do new segment in an hour. What I have next, Artin, as I mentioned in this morning's update and also yesterday, dear friends, and whole world is talking about it. So I guess I have to mention it once again that Trump was asked yesterday if NATO should intercept or shut down Russian planes if they find it them or if they declare that they violated their airspace. And Trump responded on the question positively, affirmatively. He said, yes, sir, I do believe that they should shut down their planes, which is a clearly invitation for globalists to go ahead, and globalist control regimes in Europe to go ahead with the more false flag operations. And that's exactly what they're going to do while preparing ground for next phase of escalation with Russia. Also, RT is reporting that Trump changed the rhetoric big time. After having a meeting with Zelensky yesterday, he wrote on his True Social some absolutely nonsensical, crazy stuff. He went as far as to claim that Kyiv regime might actually defeat Russia, and called on the NATO, EU, and their proxy Kyiv regime to for more activities to strike Russia. It was a horrible statement on part of Trump, dear friends. I read it yesterday, so I'm not going to go into detail. Trump's statements clearly demonstrated how ill-informed he is really, and how, you know what, I will leave it there. But Kremlin reacted. Kremlin reacted, dear friends. And let me give you some details on that. So RIA Novosti is reporting that Kremlin assessed their economic situation, the progress of the progress of the special military operation. This technical mechanical translation is horrible. I can tell you. This is Google, by the way, Google's translation, which is freaking horrible. The Kremlin assessed basically economic situation, special military operation, and relations with the United States. Presidential press secretary Dmitry Peskov responded to U.S. criticism of Moscow, discussed their New START initiative, and assessed the prospects of the strategic defense initiative and the economic situation. RIA Novosti reports their highlights of the statements of the Peskov. On Trump's harsh statement, Peskov said the Kremlin spokesman commented on the White House chief's recent negative statements. Russia is associated with beer. They are not paper beers. This was Peskov's response on Trump's claim that Russia is a paper tiger. So yes, Russia is associated with the beer, and bears are not. They're no paper bears. That was irony from Peskov. Also, some other points. The American leader is demonstrating political will to find solution to the conflict in Ukraine, but his rhetoric is currently dominated by their position he heard from the Vladimir Zelensky. Peskov said, well, Peskov basically diplomatically is saying that Trump is a freaking moron. That's it. If Zelensky can dominate Trump's opinion, then Trump is a freaking moron. That period. There can be no buts after that, right? Also, Peskov went to say that a phone call between the Russian president and president of US is not currently planned, but could be arranged at any time. Why? Why should the Russian president waste time talking to that moron? I have no freaking idea. I mean, if there was any illusions before, by the way, then by now those illusions should be, should disappear completely, right? Trump and his administration are engaged in a war against Russian people. Period. They are our enemies. That's it. Just that's it. There is nothing to talk to them, right? The leaders are generally on familiar terms. They've known each other for a long time. Their relationship allows them to discuss sensitive topics and convey key messages regarding the two countries' positions. Peskov also said, goodness me, man. It would be wrong to expect an immediate breakthrough in elimination irritants between Russia and the United States. Peskov also went to say, on the situation in a zone of special military operation, Peskov said Moscow continues its special operation to ensure its interests. This is being done for the country's present and future. There is no alternative. We are moving forward very carefully so as not to undermine our offensive potential. They are very deliberate actions, and it's better to spread them out over time than to rush. Trying to time victories to concede with something else, but at the same time increasing their death toll. The influx of volunteers allows the Russian armed forces to staff their units, and the troops continue their successful offensive. Peskov also said the dynamics show that for those who don't want to negotiate now, their position will be much worse tomorrow and the day after. Peskov said, hinting that if Kyiv regime and its NATO backers wouldn't accept Russian terms now, then tomorrow Russian terms will be more harsh than it is today, because the situation for Russian enemies will be much more difficult. I mean, in this particular case, I agree with Peskov 100%. Their unprepared meeting between Vladimir Putin and Vladimir Zelensky is a PR stunt doomed to failure. Why not come to Moscow if you are open to dialogue? Or why don't you come? Peskov made a rhetorical question there. Moscow is open to a settlement process. Donald Trump cannot fail to see this. Working groups between Russia and Ukraine were not created, and no desire was expressed on the part of Kiev he went to talk about some other stuff too. But I guess this is enough from Peskov. Yet again, I find it really increasingly frustrating that Russian leadership still continues to talk about Trump in a polite manner. I mean, for God's sake, for how long? What is Trump gonna do so that you will at least change the tune? And the user, I'm not saying use offensive language, but at least don't be this polite, because it sends wrong messages to the public here domestically, by the way, because people are asking questions. What the heck, man? He is acting against us. He's disregarding lives of Trump is disregarding lives of the Russian citizens, threatens Russian citizens, threatens Russia, and you still being polite. It's not okay. It's just not freaking okay. It's counterproductive, right? Let's designate enemies as such and treat them as such, right? Too much games, by the way, too much freaking games, and we are losing in these freaking games that are created by the West. No, let's create our games then and play our games with our rules, while we are engaged in games that are coming from the West. It's crazy, man. It's sickening, actually. Anyways, Dmitry Medvedev, former Russian president, also went to make a comment about yesterday's antics of the Trump. Let me give you his statements, dear friends. Something is going on over there in New York. Medvedev wrote, the Banderite clown has coke and tremor. The Pole has a snot in his mouth. Medvedev is referring to strange behavior of the Zelensky. Probably you have seen videos, friends. He did not look adequate for sure. I mean, his face impressions were quite telling, to say the least. And also, Polish president, was caught on a video when he was using snus, which is banned in Poland. And the Polish president was, I believe, criticized by other Polish officials, even, right? High-ranking officials for that. So that's what Medvedev is referring to. Let me continue his statements. And Trump, again, fell into alternative reality and delivered a batch of political spells on the topic how weak Russia is. After meeting with the Kiev and the Paris clowns, he published a vivid post. There is their final victory of Kiev, the return of previous borders, the failed military economy of Russia, quizzes for cues from gasoline and their paper tiger. In this reality, everything is different. Kiev wins, Russia is turned to shreds, the economy of Banderite Ukraine confidently grows thanks to its own resources. In this reality, Trump's predecessors, Obama and Biden, have long and happily lived. But Trump is not like that. I have no doubts he will return. He always returns. Probably in a couple of days, he will offer the green pianist, he's referring to Zelensky, to sign a surrender or fly to Mars with a mask when whom he pardoned, or do something also very important that will allow him to claim the Nobel Prize. The main thing is to frequently and radically change your point of view on various issues, and everything will be fine. This is the essence of successful state governance through social networks. And as they say, thank you for your attention to this subject. Medvedev finalized his statements. This is irony, of course. He's laughing at Trump. He's laughing at all the other so-called leaders of the West and their proxy regime in Ukraine. And you know what? Trump is himself created the ground for this, right? People to have this attitude towards him. He is a freaking clown, isn't it? He is. And he betrayed America First people, by the way, and I wonder how long it will take before leading voices in MAGA movement, in America First movement, will confront Trump.
They will. They have to. If they are truly patriots of their America, they have to confront Trump and demand Trump to be removed from office by legal means, by the way, because Trump is anything but America first. He is a deeply compromised individual, and he works for anybody but U.S. Interests and U.S. interests of the U.S. people. Ask Israelis, by the way; they know, right? Meanwhile, being emboldened by Trump's flip flop, Zelensky went to say that Trump is trusting him now, which is also quite interesting. What an advisor Trump has, isn't it? What a source of information. Zelensky, this freaking green goblin, by the way. US is a joke, man. I'm telling you, US is becoming a freaking joke, man. Every new administration is seems like are intentionally destroying that country. I have no freaking idea why they do this, but every new administration, since I remember myself, by the way, is intentionally destroying US while completely ignoring objective interests of the US citizens. Just saying. RT is also reporting that Zelensky claims India is mostly on Ukraine's side. Well, that's quite something, isn't it? Quite something. I wonder if Modi knows about being Zelensky's ally. Probably we will find out. So Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky has claimed that he is sure that India will change its attitude towards purchasing Russian energy, and that New Delhi is mostly on Kiev's side. Okay. Let's see. By the way, at least for now, all we see as a reports in regards to India's attitude towards Russia is that ties are deepening between Moscow and New Delhi. Cooperation is deepening in all possible directions, not just energy sector, but military industrial direction, military cooperation in general, cooperation in all the other sectors. So I guess Zelensky had little too much of some powder, some substance, so that he went just too far in his dreams there. RIA Novosti is also reporting that Ukraine's position on the battlefield will only worsen, according to Kremlin statement. I already mentioned this. Peskov went to say, press spokesman of the Russian president, that longer this conflict continue, situation for Kiev regime will only worsen, which is true, by the way. Also, I mentioned this topic, I believe, during today's first update. The Telegraph, British media outlet, come up with an article that is not so optimistic for Western proxy Kiev regime. According to Telegraph, Trump is washing his hands of the Ukraine war. We have quote from article here. What at the first glance may seem like a stunning turnaround could actually be bad news for Vladimir Zelensky. Instead of promising new support for Ukraine or stepping up actions against Russia, Trump appears to be handing everything over to Europe and NATO. And the article Telegraph is not happy about it. They were expecting that Trump will immediately declare some more sanctions, some more tariffs. Maybe Trump will send its, maybe they were expecting that Trump will send its militaries to Kiev control territory. And he might, by the way, tomorrow, but whatever the case, I think Trump's editors are just their level of Russophobia is making them for them extremely difficult to have a ability of thinking through some news or processing certain news, because on one hand they are saying that Trump is washing the hand from a Ukrainian crisis. On the other hand, the very same Telegraph is saying that Trump is handing everything over to Europe and the NATO. And what the hell is Europe and the NATO if not the US? What Europe or NATO is? It's US, right? And Trump was very clear that he will provide, or US will provide, NATO with everything US can provide, all the weapon systems they will purchase or ask and that says it all, isn't it? There is no NATO without US. So why Telegraph is trying to paint a picture that, well, US is something else, some separate entity that has nothing to do with NATO. No, US is a NATO. Without US, this organization is not existent, right? Anyways, by the way, all sorts of interpretations are circulating on internet after yesterday's antics from Trump. Writer, my personal take is that Trump finally illustrated himself, and if anyone had any illusions that maybe he is, really America first, but struggles to define his understanding of the situation, or struggles to fighting with the neocons and then globalists and all other forces, and that's why he is flip-flopping and stuff. Yesterday, Trump made it very, very clear. He is a beach of or slut of neocons and the Zionists, right? That's it. And the globalists, by the way. He is a whore. Trump is a whore, period, by the way. I mean, if anybody thinks Trump is America first, then I have Mount Everest or Mount McKinley, by the way, in US itself to sell, right? With a big discount. That's all, man. I don't want to hear any positive statements about Trump. He is a freaking idiot, man. Disgrace of humanity, period. Right? Just a talking head in hands of all sorts of influential groups in the world, but definitely not the American people. While all this crap is happening, by the way, that are generated mainly from Western elites, U.S. Energy Secretary, right, went on a TV, on the Fox News once again, to claim that U.S. is ready to displace all Russian gas and oil products going into Europe, and they will. By the way, I have no doubt that eventually they will force all the European countries to accelerate destruction of their own economies, and the U.S. will force them to cut ties with Russia completely in every possible way, not just in the energy field, but every possible way. And eventually, probably, we will see a wave of shutdowns of diplomatic missions, because situation is getting to the point when presence of Russian, for example, diplomatic missions in European states no longer has or makes any sense, actually, right? So once less and less ties will remain between Russia and European states, or none of the ties will be left, then clearly questions will rise, I guess, in Moscow. Why are we spending millions of dollars maintaining embassies in these hostile states? Let's cut it off, right? And we're gonna get there. By the way, and in short time, I think so. That's the direction that Europe is heading, and well, Moscow will react. Moscow always react, by the way. We rarely seeing some proactive movements from Russian side. Unfortunately, I would of course prefer Russia to act more on what is the word, man? Preemptive. Russia to conduct more preemptive steps, right? I would like to see that, but unfortunately, this is not a view of Russian leadership, I guess. Moscow always reacts on something negative that West is coming up against us. Maybe this will change. Anyways, dear friends, just about 2 hours ago, approximately, there was a meeting on the sidelines of UN between Lavrov and the Foreign Minister of Russian Federation, Sergei Lavrov, and Marco Rubio, head of U.S. State Department. Conversation between the two lasted about 15 minutes. Rubio told Lavrov about their need to resolve the conflict in Ukraine, according to TASS News Agency. Let me give you some details. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, meeting with the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York, emphasized that the need for significant steps to resolve the conflict in Ukraine on a long-term basis. This these statements from Washington officials no longer means anything, isn't it? I mean, really. Yesterday, Trump made it very clear that U.S. administration is an enemy of Russian people, enemy of Russian Federation, and that's it. There is nothing to talk there, and I am disappointed that despite yesterday's statements of Trump, Sergei Lavrov wasted the time meeting with this warmongering, bloodthirsty animal that Marco Rubio is. I don't get it, man. I truly don't. I don't understand why Russian leadership is not acting more stronger. I mean, there is a time for diplomacy and there is time for a fight, and let's freaking fight now. We being too diplomatic, and let's fight, right? We are in a war, for God's sake. Let's fight everybody that are our enemies, right? Let's freaking take them. Anyways, sir. Lavrov emphasized his readiness to coordinate with the United States on the crisis in Ukraine. This is insane, man. During talks with the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, according to TASS news agency, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov emphasized his readiness to coordinate efforts with Washington to address the root causes of the Ukrainian crisis. Lavrov emphasized the unacceptability of Kiev and some European countries' plans to prolong the conflict, the Russian Foreign Ministry reported. What about yesterday's statements of Trump, when Trump was openly, directly calling NATO, European states, and their proxy regime to intensify attacks on Russia? What about yesterday's statements of Trump? Did Lavrov hear anything about it? Why Russian side is not talking about criminal regime in Washington? Why Russian side is being this polite towards administration in the US? Do they have any our leadership is compromised, for God's sake? This is a legit question. What the hell is going on here? Are we being compromised? Because this is not normal. People are asking questions, man. People are asking questions, and I'm asking questions too. Our leadership is compromised by CIA, by Western secret services? Why Russian leadership is acting if they own something to Washington, man, or to US political class? We don't own nothing to them, and they mean nothing to us, right? They are enemies, and let's deal with them as we should. Insanity. This is freaking insanity, man. I'm telling you. I'm freaking not happy, absolutely not happy with the policies of Kremlin in regards to US, by the way. I mean, okay, initially you may have some hopes. Okay, I have some hopes too. I had some hopes too. But as time is passing by, we have more and more indicators that we just cannot take them seriously. We cannot take US political class seriously, anybody from US political class. Not just Trump or Rubio, but anybody, literally anybody. And so why we are wasting time on all these games? I don't know. And this is happening when seems like Kremlin has an understanding that West is waging war against us, because Kremlin spokesperson Peskov went to say today that there is a war going on. This is quote, by the way. There is a war going on. The special military operation is one thing, but what is happening around us is a war. Peskov said, we need to win this war. We need to win it for the sake of our children, for the sake of our grandchildren, for the sake of their future. That's what Peskov said. So clearly, and he is representing Russian president, right? So clearly there is a understanding in the Kremlin that West is waging war against us. And we have to win for sake of our children, our grandchildren, for their future, right? And if Kremlin understands this, then what the hell Lavrov was doing in UN today? Why he wasted the time talking to this freaking criminal that Marco Rubio is? Especially after disgraceful statements of Trump from yesterday, for example. There was many others before, but I mean, yesterday's statements are well enough, right? I don't know, man. I don't get it. So let's see what is going to happen. I understand politicians, Russian politicians, they have their ways of communicating. They are very diplomatic, polite. They have a specific, very specific language that they use, and very rarely going out of that frame of the diplomatic language. But nevertheless, questions being raised. By the way, I mean, questions being raised. We've been attacked from the West, from US, from European states, and when Russian high-ranking politicians are using or pretending or trying to paint a picture that it's only European elites that are against us and want to kill us all, but not the US leadership then or US political class. I mean, this is not this is wrong, man. US political class wants to kill us all too, and US political class is our enemy. And if it comes to killing, then let's kill them first, right? Let's fucking kill them first. I'm too disappointed, man. Just too freaking disappointed. Anyways, there was a Yemeni drone attack on Israel today. I can show you some video of that. Attack. I saw on some channels information that air defense system of Israel was working but failed to take down this drone. In this video, for example, we don't see no work of air defense systems. I guess some significant failure there, right? And then explosion. Reports are that some hotel area was struck as a result of this attack. This happened in Eilat, southern Israel. So yes, failure, I guess, on part of Israeli air defense systems. Also, yesterday, this talking head of neocons, Trump, had a meeting with representatives of Qatar, Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, Indonesia, and Pakistan on the sidelines of US. That meeting lasted about an hour, and no statements were made by anyone after the meeting, which can be seen as an indicator that talks did not went well, right? And today we have this reporter from Politico that Trump allegedly promised Arab leaders he won't let Israel annex the West Bank. This article itself demonstrates how ill-informed, ill-educated so-called journalists of Politico are, because yesterday Trump was meeting not just with the Arab leaders, or not just with the leaders of predominantly Arab countries. Indonesia, it's not Arab country. Turkey is not Arab country. Pakistan is not Arab country. Right? Last time I checked, that was the case. So maybe Politico needs to send its journalists to some, I don't know, man, some learning lessons or something, so that they will be a little more adequate. But anyways, allegedly Trump promised to delegations of these countries that I mentioned that US will not support occupation of the West Bank by Israel. And this is a lie, of course. Do anyone has any doubts that Trump was lying if he was actually promising that US will not support occupation of the West Bank? Of course, US will support everything and anything that Israel will do. And why is that? Because Israeli secret services are in control of US political class, US politicians, including Trump, right? And US is an enforcer of the Zionists. US not an independent country, as some might think. US is a proxy or enforcer in hands of Zionists, in hands of Zionist allies in US that That will be neocons, right? And also in hands of globalists. It's just factual. You might like it or not, but this is factual. This is true, right? Also, interesting report that I shared also on my Telegram and Twitter X page, that Ayatollah Khamenei says Iran cannot negotiate or reach an agreement with the United States. Wow, I mean, it took quite a long time before Iran's leadership realized that you cannot negotiate with these chronicle liars that US politicians are. Wow, well done. The side we are facing breaks their promises in every matter, Khamenei stated. And another quote, they lie, issue military threats, assassinate people, and bomb nuclear facilities. He wrote on his X. Okay, I mean, he's on point there. You cannot trust nobody from the US administration, no matter from where you are. Even if you are a US citizen. And first and foremost, if you are a US citizen, you should not trust your own politicians, right? Because they're being compromised. System is built that way in the US, that only compromised elements can be part of it. Decent human beings are not allowed, are not welcomed in that corrupt system that is in the place in the US, right? It is what it is. It is what it is. RIA Novosti is also reporting that Iran claims agents of IRGC infiltrated an Israeli nuclear facility. Iranian security agents have infiltrated the nuclear research facility in Israel, located near the city of Dimona. This was stated by Iranian intelligence minister Ismail Hatib. We have quotes here. The reality is that as a result of a complex operation, special forces units of the IRGC managed to infiltrate one of Israel's secret facilities. The Iranian television channel SNN quoted him as saying, Khatib added that intelligence had obtained their complete set of information, including their names, addresses, and the worker affiliations of 189 Israeli military experts and the nuclear physicists, as well as the projects associated with each of them. He added that the list is still being expanded. The minister stressed that the information received also includes precise data on Israel's secret dual-use military facilities, some which Iran attacked during the recent 12-day conflict. So, okay. Okay, interesting timing, by the way, of this claims from Tehran. And who knows, I would not be surprised at all, by the way, if in a couple of months' time, you know, Iran will take some steps to make sure that world knows that they have a nuclear weapon, and their nuclear weapons, and they might say then that, you know what, we talk design of their nuclear weapons technology from Israel, as a result of our successful infiltrations of Israeli nuclear facilities and so on. You know, who knows? Maybe that's what is going to happen, brother, right? We will find out soon. Also, head of Iran's Atomic Energy Organization had a meeting with the CEO of Russia's Rosatom in Moscow, which is also important. I reported a couple of days ago that there is a plans in place to build 8 new nuclear reactors in the US, in Iran, and Russia will build those nuclear reactors. 4 of them will be in Bushehr, where Russia already building nuclear power plant, and there are another 4 in some other areas. So it is not surprising that 2 sides are having a meeting and discussing some details on cooperation. And I will end this new segment, dear friends, on this report that India looking to produce Russian Su-57 fighter jets, 5th generation fighter jets. I spoke about this in the morning's update today, but nevertheless, I think it is interesting stuff, worth repeating in case you have missed the first update. So India could buy at least 2 squadrons of Russian Russia's first operational fifth-generation fighter jets, so Su-57s from Russia, and will evaluate the Russian proposal to manufacture the fighter jets domestically, their print website said on Tuesday. And well, good luck, man. Good luck. Of course, as I said many times before, cooperation between Russia and India is on high level. Both countries are seeing each other, are treating each other as a strategical partners for decades now, for decades and decades. And I believe India will benefit for sure if they will purchase Russian Su-57s, and most importantly, if agreement will be reached to produce Su-57s in India, right? Because with the license building comes technology too, and these new technologies will be useful for India to develop its own fifth-gen fighter jet, I think. So let's see how things will go. I believe first foreign buyer of Russian Su-57 is going to be Algeria. There are some reports. There were some reports in a number of media outlets that Algeria is going to be first one to buy Su-57s, and India might be among the first 5 countries for sure that will purchase Russian fifth-gen fighter jet. And that's it, dear friends. That's it for today's news segment. Well, my apologies, dear friends, if you find me to be too emotional during this program. My wife Anya was moving around here and telling me just, calm down, calm down. It was funny, by the way. But this is live stream, right? This is live stream, and real emotions. And if we watch alternative media, one of the reasons is to see real people with the real opinions and real emotions, right? That's the whole point of existence of the alternative media. You want to see real stuff. But nevertheless, I myself don't like when I'm becoming emotional or too frustrated, and I apologize for that if it was unpleasant to see. Well, now let me join the community chat, dear friends. Hopefully you did find informative news segment, and if so, please like the video, dear friends, if you have not already. There was no super chat on Rumble for now, but there was a donation on a PayPal during the stream. Let me highlight, dear friends. Iofi, thank you very much for your $56 donation. Truly grateful. Thank you very much. And comment from Iofi is keep up the great work, Levan. Thank you very much, Iofi. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Ifi. My apologies if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. Thank you very much for your generous donation, Iofi. Yes, Anya is telling me that you have explained to me once how to pronounce correctly. My apologies if I'm still not there. But thank you very much for your generous donation and support and your time. And dear friends, now let's have a little conversation. I was planning to manage to this new segment in 1 hour. I was almost there. When I end the new segment, it was 1 hour and there like 6-7 minutes, right? So almost there. And now let's have a little chat, dear friends, for I don't know, 10-15 minutes. Let's see how community chat goes. So, and Viper was the member of community who recommended before I started the stream to do news segment in about 90 minutes time, and I reacted. I commented that I will try. 3 hours is really just too long, and several hour videos previously was a 3 hour long, by the way, almost. So Yes, I did try, and I almost succeed to make 1 hour, 1 hour news segment. Also, Nikos is asking, Levan, the country that angered me, this UN assembly was not the US or Ukraine, it was China. After all the statements the West and Ukraine have given, they come up with such a weak response. We are remaining neutral. That's the Chinese stand, basically. Are they serious? Do they honestly believe that the West won't come for them? Tell me your thoughts, because I can't understand why they don't choose Russia to support. Well, Nikos, I said quite a few times before, isn't it, that I think our main focus of China right now is to gain some time. They know, based on current trajectory, they are moving in direction of becoming much more powerful in every possible way, much more powerful country than US. All they need is time. Another 10, 15 years, and China will be much more powerful, by the way, in every possible way than US is, right? Maybe even collective West combined. And that's the main reason, in my personal opinion, of extreme cautiousness of the Chinese leadership. They just want to gain some time. After 15, 20 years from now, they're not going to tolerate no BS from in Washington or Brussels or London or elsewhere. But now they are cautious, and that's the main reason. They need to gain some time. And when it comes to support to Russia, well, I was very clear before, isn't it, that I was a bit disappointed that Russian allies did not get engaged in this war against evil force that Western ruling class is directly, militarily. And I'm still upset about it. It's not okay when India, China, other allies of Russian Federation, strategical partners, are acting like they are neutral. You are neutral in what? We are fighting war on behalf of humanity against the evil force that Western elites, Western ruling class is. So how you can be neutral in that? I mean, how? But yes, so I myself upset that they have no courage, for now at least, to combat this enemy of whole of humanity that Western ruling class is. But nevertheless, I would not say that China or India or other countries are completely absent, or their support is completely absent. No, they are supporting us. They are supporting us, unfortunately, not directly militarily with manpower and military equipment, but well, they do still support us, right? They do still support us. There are reports that many components, dual-use components that Russian militaries are using, for example, or Russian military industrial complex is using, or Russian companies to build drones and all sorts of stuff that is then used in special military operations zone. It comes from China, for example. Is that a help? Can China shut down those routes of import of these potential dual user products? Of course they do, but they don't. Right? Chinese foreign ministry was also allegedly, based on some media outlets, were very clear that China cannot allow collective West to achieve a strategical defeat of Russia, as they have declared as their main goal, right? And so, yes, it is disappointing. It is disappointing, Nikos, but yet again, all countries' policies are based on the understanding of their national interests, and that's about it, really. That's about it, really. But when it comes to Chinese policies, cautious policies, it's as I said, they want to gain some time. 10, 15 years, I think, will be enough for China to outrun US in every possible way. They are already close to it. They just need 10-15 years for the build-up of their militaries. Economically, China is already much more powerful than US, right? But when it comes to military, China does need another decade or two to build up its nuclear capabilities. Reports are that by 2030, 2035, China will double its nuclear arsenal and will be in a position of guarantee the mutual destruction with the US. Right now, some might argue that China is not there yet, but if they will double their nuclear assets, they're going to be, in a position that if shit hits the fan, then China will be able to obliterate US, turn US into radioactive dust, right? They will have enough nuclear weapons for that. And it's like 10 years from now, and they will have 1,500 to 2,000 nuclear weapons, nuclear warheads, majority of whom which will be based on, will be inserted into hypersonic delivery vehicles, right? With their extremely low chances on part of US to intercept them with a Golden Dome or with whatever. There is no way US is going to be in a position in 10, 15 years time from now to intercept hypersonic gliders with the nuclear warheads, right? It's not happening. So China will reach that point of guaranteed nuclear mutual destruction that Russia and US have right now. And from then on, I don't think Beijing will tolerate any BS from Washington or any other Western capital. That's my understanding of the situation. All they need now is to build more nuclear weapons, by the way, and they do. And Beijing was always very clear that they are not interested in any talks with the US about control of strategical weapons. They're not gonna, and their explanation is that US and Russia has like 5,000-6,000 nuclear warheads, right? While China is way behind for now. So they don't see any reason to be part of such talks, right? Although US tried, by the way, to lure in China in this trap, of denuclearization. There was a super chat, dear friends, right now on Rumble. Let me highlight, if I may. A super chat is from Scooby. So let me highlight this super chat. Thank you very much, Scooby, for your super chat, $5 donation, and the commentary. So super chat. So Scooby is writing in a super chat. China is apparently not concerned about sanctions anymore. Russia could use their industrial capacity, and China could use their demand. Yes, I mean, as I said, China is not supporting Russia militarily. China is not transferring to Russia, let's say, armored personal carriers or any other military tanks or anything else from its stockpiles even. I'm not saying current, from their army, but they have stockpiles, by the way, of tens of thousands of armored vehicles, right? And they could supply some, because this is high intensity conflict, right? And thousands of military equipments being damaged, right, or destroyed. But they don't do this, but nevertheless, they are in some other ways, covert ways, maybe, we can use that word. In some covert ways, China is supporting Russia. So they are doing this in this covertly because yet again they need some time. They just need some time. Give it 10-15 years, and they will not tolerate no BS from anyone. And that's it. Thank you very much, Scooby, for your comment. I was trying to say something similar. I agree with you. China does not care about U.S. sanctions no more. That's for sure, because U.S. is in no position to mess around China economically. Some strong statements might be made in Washington, but the U.S. is in no position to mess around China. And after all, Trump already imposed on China some high tariffs and stuff, isn't it? And then after some time, he was forced basically to backtrack on his own decisions, right? So it's factual. What Scooby is saying is factual. This is not just an opinion. Thank you very much, Scooby, for your super chat and the donation. Thank you. So let me continue. Luca Opleft is commenting, yes, calling Russia's special military operation in Ukraine a war has been illegal in Russia, can result in administrative or criminal penalties, including heavy fines and imprisonment. I mean, this is a false narrative that was used there, that was spread in the West, by the way. Look, don't believe in this nonsense that you hear in the West. Special military operation is a term, official term. You can use word, or you can use any other word. How should I say word, right? You can use war, you can use conflict, you can use any other word, right? And you're not gonna end up in jail or get fined or something. It's a false narrative, yet another one that was spread by the Western propaganda, right? It's a fake stuff, man. It's a war. Obviously, it's a war, right? We are engaged in a war. But my understanding of the situation is that this war is provoked by the West. This is a proxy war, right? It's a proxy war that West is waging against Russia. And I don't know how many times did I have said that, like literally 1,000 times, maybe more. And because that's what it is. I believe this is a proxy war that West is waging against Russia. And Peskov, press spokesman of the Russian president, while talking about it, while saying that we are in a war, he meant exactly that we are in a war. And what is going on around us is a war. Of course it is, right? And special military operation, this is a term, dear friends. This is done for a purpose, right? Special military operation is a special military operation. It based on a specific legislation, right? War is war, declaration of the war and all that kind of stuff is something different. And special military operation is not a war in a classical understanding. If Russia was engaged in a war actually with Ukraine, well, then this conflict would be very different. War would be total, right? And you would see on Kyiv control territory exactly what you have seen in the Gaza Strip. Israel is engaged in a war. Israel also calls its military actions special military operation, but it is difficult to define Israeli actions as a special military operation. They are engaged in a total war. They are destroying literally everything, right? And they are killing intentionally civilians, in mass. Hardly anyone can doubt that, right? While Russia is engaged in a special military operation. But if I say we are engaged in a war because we are engaged in a war, I'm not going to be freaking arrested or fined or something. What you are? I just said, we are engaged in a war, and what? Because we are. But this war is provoked by the West. It's a proxy war, right? It's a NATO money, it's a NATO weapon, and best forces that NATO could come up with, which is our brainwashed brothers from Kyiv control territory that are part of Russian world, of course, and were always part of Russian world, but they've been brainwashed. They are now thinking that they are descendants of freaking, I don't know, man. Some of them think they are descendants of Vikings. Some of them think they are descendants of Aryans. Some of them think they are descendants of some I don't know, Anunnaki maybe or something, right? They've been brainwashed and they believe in all sorts of crap, but nevertheless, they're still our brothers, right? and they know how to fight because people in the Russian world know how to fight in general. And so NATO is fighting us with its money, its weapons, and best force, military force, manpower that they can come up with, which is people on kill control territory that know how to fight, unlike people in the Western world that used to know how to fight, but last 50, 70 years were just too comfortable in a collective West, right? Really. And people just get too soft, some might say. Remember, I don't know who said it first, but there is a say, isn't it, that harsh times are creating strong people. Strong people are creating easy times. Easy times are creating weak people. And weak people are creating harsh times. And it goes around and around and around on a circle, right? History. And, there is a point in that, isn't it? There is a point in that. So, yes, sir. Look, don't believe in this nonsense that you're going to be arrested for something that you say. If you are not asset of the foreign country, if you are a good citizen, you can say whatever you want. You can criticize whomever you want, or come on, man. Just don't listen to BBC, and that kind of crap, and you will know better. Then. I'm scrolling, dear friends, through chat right now. I mean, Michael Kennedy. Hello, Michael. Michael Kennedy is commenting, you and Nazis hated Banderites. And this is true, by the way. You might, some members of community might be surprised to hear that SS officers, by the way, and SS was their most brutal formations in Wehrmacht, right, in Nazi Germany. Even SS officers were horrified. Can you imagine that? Horrified by the actions of the Banderites. SS officers were horrified, and they were writing letters, by the way, to their leadership in Berlin. And they're explaining their horrors and explaining what type of crimes these Banderites were committing. So Michael is on point, absolutely. Even SS freaking officers were horrified by the crimes committed by those Banderites. And in modern so-called Ukraine, Stepan Bandera has been painted as a hero. And you will struggle to find any settlement on the Kiev control territory where you're not going to see some street that has name of Bandera, or some building in name of Bandera, or even universities, by the way. And if you ask Western so-called elites, there is no issue of Nazism in Ukraine and the fascists. No, man, no. It's all Russian propaganda. Yeah, of course. Interesting comment. Red Sparrow is commenting, Trump is attempting to turn defeat by NATO into a victory by media disinformation. I mean, you have a point there. Maybe, maybe that's what Western elites going to do eventually. They're going to brag about how tough they are and how victorious and all that kind of stuff. And when the influence of propaganda is so strong that they're going to, majority of the public in the West probably will believe them. If anything, Western elites and their assets are quite good in the public relationships, in the propaganda. Unfortunately, they are quite good in the propaganda, by the way. They are brainwashing people left and right, And Nathan Dunning is commenting, Trump is a literate salesman at the best. And yes, I mean, he definitely not an intellectual. That's for sure. Hardly even diehard Trump supporters will argue with that. If there is any diehard Trump supporters left, by the way, really. I mean, America First people at this point probably no longer has any illusions that they've been misled and betrayed by Trump and his team. Luke is also commenting, Luan, are the war cripples being hidden, or do you see them wandering the streets? I guess Luke means if there is if there is many people with injuries or many amputees on the streets. Well, of course, I have seen people that had injuries, amputees too, but it's a rare occasion. Just like a couple of days ago, I see young military who was still in military, by the way, military uniform. He was still serving in some capacities, and this young man was maybe was has lost a leg. He was struggling to walk, but nowadays this I mean, modern technologies do allow to create a quite effective what is the word, prosthesis, right? And it does makes of course it will not fully, of course, minimize the result of losing hand or feet, but it makes life a bit easier that new technologies are allowing to build advanced prostheses. But I mean, there are no, you're not gonna see people that had injuries every day, but sometimes yes, you see. As I said, a couple of days ago, I see a young man in military uniform that was struggling with, I guess, veteran that was still in army, by the way, and serving. But it's not in mass. It's not happening in mass. Alexander G is commenting, Russia and Iran have both been burned by the US diplomacy. There is only one language understood by their zeros. I agree with you, Alexander. I agree with you absolutely. I mean, how many times we're gonna get burned on this way? It is unfortunate, but diplomacy literally has been weaponized by the Western elites, right? They use diplomacy to disinform, misinform, to lie, to cut off guard. And that's why it does makes me and many other people angry when we still are engaged in this talks and stuff. Is if it makes any difference, or is if it has any sense in it, right? It does not. Even if Russian side not gonna allow, let's say if Lavrov definitely knows that Rubio is lying, right? And he's not gonna allow him to misinform him. Still, fact itself that he wasted the time meeting with Rubio is something disturbing to me personally, right? I don't want Russian leaders to waste time talking to these criminals from the Western elites, right? And to give them a legitimacy, after all. They are criminals, and we should treat them as such. We have to tell to whole world, whole of humanity, that Western elites are criminals, mass murderers, and we have to neutralize them. All of us, whole of humanity, by the way. If we have an enemy, it's a Western so-called elites. And I think we can unite, by the way. Really believe humanity can unite around the idea of eliminating Western so-called elites, that evil freaking force, man. You know, but yet again, what you gonna do, man? What you gonna do? Scooby is commenting. Levin seems to have a high regard for MAGA people. They just seem like a herd of wild beasts to me. Wherever Trump directs them, they go. I mean, I don't know, Scooby. Maybe this is an impression that I'm living. When I say MAGA or America First people, I mean just ordinary Americans that want their government to be focused on interests of the American people, right? Maybe I'm wrong using this specific terminology like America First and MAGA. I'm talking about ordinary U.S. patriots, right? Ordinary people in U.S. that want their own government to be focused on issues that people are facing in America. That's what I mean by this. I'm not necessarily talking about some conservatives or traditionalists. They can be, and most likely are. Of course, they are. Like, millions and millions of people on the left side of the aisle that want their government to be focused on American interests first, or interests of the American people first, right? I myself, by the way, I said it quite a few times. Here in Russia, I consider myself to be left liberal. Maybe in the West, I would be considered someone on the right side of the aisle, but I think I'm left liberal, at least by our standards, right? So I'm not using these words like America, this terminology, America First, to describe certain people with certain political or ideological stance. I'm just referring to people that want government to be focused on America. But when it comes to particularly MAGA movement, I don't really have much to say about the movement itself, because this is internal stuff for US, and I'm not really interested that much in some internal movements there. Whenever I talk about some internal policies of the US, I always point out that main thing is people to be united. Main thing is people not to allow the so-called elites to divide them, right? And unfortunately, American people is failing on that. They did already allowed elites and their propaganda outlets to put seeds of hate in their souls, right, in their hearts, and that's why sometimes you might get impression that half America hates another half, and vice versa, which is never good, by the way, for any society anywhere. And by the way, while saying I'm left liberal by our standards, I'm also traditionalist and somewhat conservative, maybe not too conservative, but somewhat conservative, right? Uh, and there is no contradiction here, at least, right? You can be left liberal and you can be traditionalist same time, and they're somewhat conservatives. It's all fine. It's all okay. There is no contradictions here, but in the West things are work differently, I guess. And if you are traditionalist, you cannot be liberal. Why is that? Who says so? You know. Nikos is commenting. Dima said that, and Dima, Nikos is referring to host of in the military summary channel, dear friends. So Dima said that besides the terror, the main target was the Kazakhstan pipeline. This is a pure terror. And then they cry at the UN, at least the Black Sea Fleet was not there. I mean, I mentioned this, Nikos, isn't it? I mentioned that Caspian Pipeline Consortium was attacked, and their head officer, or one of the officers of their consortium, and there were 2 people injured at least as a result of this attack. And this Caspian Pipeline Consortium transfers mainly Kazakhstani oil, by the way, on the world market. This consortium not even transfers Russian oil, very little volume of Russian oil, but some 95% is Kazakhstani oil. I did spoke about it, Nikos, in the beginning of their news segment. So yes, they were targeting Caspian Pipeline Consortium. Yes. And one of the biggest shareholders in that consortium are American companies. That's why I said while commenting on the matter that this is London striking on U.S. interests, because yet again it's a Chevron, isn't it? Shell or Chevron or both are shareholders in that pipeline consortium. And this is definitely not the first time. I think this infrastructure of Caspian Pipeline Consortium was targeted by London and the Kyiv regime at least 3, 4, maybe 5 times at least. Every other month they are targeting this consortium. Dear friends, there was a donation on a boosty right now, dear friends. Let me highlight, if I may. Let me highlight this donation. So Jeff, thank you very much for your donation on the boosty. $3,222 donations. Sorry, 3,222 ruble donation, which is $40. Thank you very much. And comment from Jeff is happy belated birthday, Levan. Greetings from Joan in Canada to you and your family. Keep up their good work. Thank you very much for congratulations and for your generous donation. And for your kind words. Thank you very much. Truly grateful. Thank you. And dear friends, let's continue. Let's continue with the chat. Dear friends, I'm looking. I'm focused on capital Qs or capital letters while scrolling. As you know, I have said it many times. Also, Nathan Dunning is commenting 100% corruption is a mainstream politics now in the West. Only compromised people make it into positions of authority. Thank you for sharing, Nathan. That's my impression. That's honestly, I mean, that's what I think. Right, that our system is built in such a way that if people are not compromised, they would not be allowed into that system. And therefore, you have a situation when no matter who has majority or minority, who is a president or prime minister, depends on which country we are talking about, nothing is really changing. So why is that then? Despite all their promises, during the election campaigns and stuff, once those people are getting into office, they are forgetting literally everything or almost everything, right? How is that? Only explanation is that system is corrupt and only compromised people are allowing. And compromised people can be manipulated by whatever forces have compromised them, right? It's just, it's logical. I mean, when we say this, some people that believe everything that they hear from so-called elites might say, well, you are what they call it, some terrorists. What is the word, man? Theory Zagovora. How you say теория заговора? Теория заговора. You know what I mean, isn't it, dear friends? They love to say that, well, if you are being, for God's sake, man, I forgot the word. I'm gonna translate this. Conspiracy theorists, yes, goodness me. So you're gonna be told that, oh, you are conspiracy theorists, but no, man, no. Very often much often than not, all the ideas that being called conspiracy theories are becoming the truth, and nothing conspirational about this statement that Western systems, political systems, are corrupt and only allow corrupt individuals in. I think this is 100% true. Come on, man. I like when people that are heavily influenced by Western propaganda sharing opinions. Luke is commenting. Luke Uplift is commenting. Putin would prefer to rule over others than give up power. Levon can't say that without getting arrested. I mean, really, I just read your comment. I said it. In a way, and what? No one gonna get arrested. Look, don't watch too much, at least Western MSM, because you have a wronger understanding of Russia and situation in Russia. You can criticize Putin all day longer, as much as you like. If your criticism is coming from a good place, then you are good to go, man. Criticize, come up with some ideas. Be proactive, do your thing, as long as you are a good citizen, not some foreign asset, but a good citizen, loyal to people, to country, you're not gonna have no issues, man. If you break the law, then okay, that's a whole different story. You should not break the law. But to criticize Putin, I just criticize whole Russian leadership in today's program, because of their policies in regards to US administration. And you think I'm going to get arrested disowning? No. Did you listen to my news segment? And by the way, when it comes to Putin, you really think that he wants to stay in power forever? Can you imagine how difficult the job to be a president of Russian Federation, to be a president in general in any country, and especially in Russian Federation is? Can you imagine how stressful that work is? I would not like to have such a job. It's an unbelievable level of responsibility. It's unbelievable level of stress, right? Are you sure you would be able to withstand such a pressure and even work for a month on such a difficult position? I'm not, man. You know, I'm quite self-critical person. You know, I may be very opinionated, and I am, right? But same time, I know my strong sides potentially and my weak sides, and I'm telling you, I don't want to be in a position that Russian president is, because you cannot imagine how stressful that work is, man. And you think Putin, who is I don't know how old is he, like 70? You think he wants to stay in power forever and do this job? No, man, no. It's not works that way. And he is already being written in Russian history, by the way. When he came to power, Russia was weak, and now Russia is clearly one of the top powers in this world, right? And we standing fight against collective West alone, by the way. That's how powerful Russia has become while Putin is in power. So he wrote his name in Russian history forever, in world's history forever, right? And I don't think he wants to stay in power any longer than necessary. And I think once collective West, political elites of the collective West will capitulate, Putin will be focused on his replacement, because I cannot even imagine how tired he probably is, man. It's only from a side one may say, you know what, they do nothing. You are president, you can call the shots, you can do anything you want. It does not work that way. It's a tremendously stressful and difficult job, right? That very few people are capable of withstanding. Let's be real here. To criticize and say some shit is easy, right? But talk is cheap, man. So you are mistaken. Look, if you think Putin really dreams about staying in power forever, man, you are very much mistaken. I can imagine how tired he is, man, how much he wants to just have some rest, man. And once West will capitulate, once we will finalize victory in this proxy war that West is waging against us, I'm quite sure Putin will have a rest, man. I see a question from Nidish. Levanov fourth S-400 regiment delivered today. What is Russia thinking about rebuying S-400 from Turkey? I don't know if Turkey... there is constant talks between Turkey and US, isn't it? Turkey wants to get its hands on F-35s. They want some technologies so that they be in a better position to build their own 5th gen fighter jet. But US demands Turkey to get rid of S-400 first. And Turkey might do it. I mean, just recently there was yet another statement from Turkish Defense Ministry, I believe, that they have no plans to get rid of S-400, despite claims in some media that Ankara is engaged in talks with Russia to resale, basically, S-400 to Russian side or to third party. But this might happen. These talks between Ankara and Washington about F-35s are lasting for so long that I guess Turkish military industrial complex is desperate for that technology that they might gain from F-35s, right? So it all depends now on on influence of Turkish military industrial complex, right? If they will say, you know what, S-400 is good, but we need this technology for sure, 100%, and country will benefit more, or militaries will benefit more if we get technologies that we need from F-35, then Ankara might actually sell S-400, yes, and Russia might take it back. Why not? Or maybe some other country, after some works being done on this particular S-400, maybe some third country will buy it. It's a possibility. I mean, I don't think Moscow has cares big time about what Turkey gonna do with this S-400. Without Moscow's authorization, Turkey cannot sell it to nobody, right? And if Turkey prefers F-35 so much that wants F-35 so much that they will get rid of S-400, then Russia may buy it and then just use it or resell it to some other client. There is a queue, by the way, for S-400s, right? So it's up to Turkey, really. It's gonna be no issue. If Turkey wants to get rid of it, it can be done easy, right? There is queue of countries that wants to buy S-400, right? So it's not an issue for Moscow. It's up to Turkey to decide, really. But yet again, talks about F-35s has lasted for so long that I guess Ankara might actually go ahead with and might actually agree on the demand of Washington to get rid of this Russian air defense system. And Washington demands this because, first of all, I think they are afraid that if F-35s are delivered, then Russian side, through this S-400, and probably they think Russia still communicates with S-400, and probably Russia, this is true probably because I believe Pentagon can turn off any Patriot that they have sell from a distance. So there is constant communication, updating the programming and so on, right? So probably Washington afraid, or U.S. military industrial complex, that Russians might learn too much if F-35s constantly fly in a zone of operation of radar, for example, of S-400. But I think more importantly, Washington is demanding from Turkey to get rid of S-400 because of the Greece. Because the only reason why Turkey and Greece buy Russian air defense systems is that they want to make sure that if a war will break between them two, which might happen, they will have air defense systems that will still continue to operate, even if Washington or other Western countries will turn off Western-built air defenses that they have, Patriots and IRIS-Ts and others. So. Question. Jim Passarotti is commenting. What base did the Italian F-35s fly out of? What did anything happen right now as I am online? What Italian F-35s? By the way, let me check some media outlets. Maybe there was some, I don't know, breaking news right now with F-35s being involved. I don't see nothing on RIA Novosti. Let me check TASS news agency. Nothing. We have reports that this evening, by the way, from 8 evening to 11 p.m., another 11 drones were intercepted by Russian air defense systems over the Crimea and the Black Sea that was launched by Kyiv regime with the assistance of NATO. This is reported right now, and well, that's about it, dear friends. No reports about F-35s, which I don't know what story you are referring to with this question of F-35s. So therefore, I cannot answer to the question. Apologies for that. Also, Luke is commenting, did Russia just jack up VAT to 22%? This is initiative. I did spoke about it during today's first update. This is initiative that maybe tax will increase from current 20% to 22. So it's not much of an increase really, just a 2%. But same time, it is very important to keep in mind that here in Russia there is a entire list of products that have a special taxing approach. Essential goods basically being taxed way less than even 20%. Essential goods are taxed only like 10% or something, and among essential goods, by the way, are like dozens of nominations of the food, different food items, and stuff like that. So even if VAT will rise up to 22% in next year, I don't think that will influence inflation big time. And yet again, current VAT is 20%, so increase is not really that special. John Ashley Smith is commenting, how much is gasoline per liter in Russia these days? On the weekend here it was $1.37 per liter. Well, I have no car, dear friends, so I don't really know prices on the gasoline. But thank you for asking about gasoline. Yesterday, among many other lies that Trump said during his post on Truth Social or during his other statements, one of the lies was that there is a queues on the gasoline here in Russia, isn't it? That people cannot fill up the tanks. This is so freaking embarrassing for U.S. president to say. I mean, how can he be this misinformed, man? I just, I don't know. Too bad. But when it comes to prices of gasoline, let me Google right now. Let me search it right now. Цены на бензин. Let's see it, by the way. So there is different types of fuel, right? 95 is a high quality, I guess. Medium quality, okay. Medium quality benzene. Benzene you call gas, isn't it? Gasoline. So it costs in Russia, in some regions, by the way, you might buy it for 60 rubles, in some regions for 78 rubles. For 60 rubles is about 80 cents approximately. 78 ruble is about $1, less than $1, 95 cents, something like that. That's a medium price, by the way, of I-95, which is a sort of a medium quality, not a premium, but medium quality gasoline. There is a premium quality gasoline, I-98, for example, and they're higher, and price on that starts from 85 rubles, for example. 85 rubles is about $1 for a liter. Diesel, by the way, costs 71 rubles, 73 копейки, 71 ruble, basically 72, which is some 80 cents, I guess. So that's the prices. I just Google it, dear friends. That's what Russian sites on the matter are reporting, latest information. But because I don't have a car, I just don't buy gasoline. So so it's cheaper here. Anyways, gasoline is significantly cheaper here in Russia than in your place, because you can buy here gasoline for less than $1. Gene HFX is asking, does your wife and the children speak English? You are very good yourself. Do you see English used much around Moscow? My wife knows English. She knows grammar better than I do. But she is not talking much, really. She is herself is English, by the way. Yes, I have multi-ethnic, multicultural family. So yes, my older daughter speaks English, and we have made a couple of programs, by the way, a couple of news programs together on a Patreon, and we'll continue to do some, programs in the future whenever she has time. And the younger daughter is still learning English. So, and when it comes to around Moscow, I mean, I would not say that you're gonna hear English literally every day you go out, but it's not really unusual occasion to hear English or Spanish or French or Chinese. There are a lot of people from all over the world, isn't it, here? So, but I guess I guess if you are, for example, from US and want to migrate to Russia, and you came to Moscow, for example, I think from every 100 people, if you're gonna ask someone something, if you are looking for something, you will probably need to ask at least 4 or 5, maybe 10 people before you will get to one that will actually give you an answer in English. So English is not as common or popular language here in Russia as in some other countries, I will say. But many people know, of course. Yes, I mean, in every school, or maybe not in every, but many schools teaching, almost all schools are teaching English. So there is certain level of knowledge, but but there are other languages too that are popular: French, Spanish. Okay. So, ну и что в школе есть сейчас? Ты хочешь сказать, что там 95% говорят на английском? Ну, а вопрос об этом. So, my wife is telling me that some 90-95% of schools probably are teaching English, which could be true. I don't know stats, but I have big doubts that 95% of people that you're gonna meet will give you answer in English. I don't think so. Aziz is asking, do you know what happened to General Lapin from SMO? Silky Nafo channel claimed Putin dismissed him. Well, General Lapin is going to be deputy of the leader of Tatarstan, I think. He was removed from military service, and he will serve as a deputy or advisor of leader of Tatarstan, autonomous republic, I believe, and he will overlook at the process of military recruitment. I have read stuff about that, so maybe if those reports were correct, well, that's what is going to happen. He was removed from military service. That's for sure. And I believe I have read on big channels, by the way, on bigger channels and also media outlets, that he will serve in some capacities in Tatarstan. He's going to be deputy of Tatarstan leader, I think. And this is it, I guess, dear friends, for now, for today's live stream. Thank you very much for your questions, for your comments, for your support, dear friends. Hopefully you did find the new segment interesting, informative, and also our chat after this segment. Have a wonderful day, dear friends. Have a wonderful day, and see you tomorrow. Bye for now.